Hello friends, old and new. My name is Mustafa and this is MK Fingerstyle Academy. In this lesson we're going to do something a little bit unique in this channel. We're going to take a look at a fingerstyle exercise created by a fellow fingerstyle ukulele content creator. Most of you know him as 4 Strings Boy. This comes straight out of his popular Fingerstyle Fursday series. And instead of me telling you what it is about, I thought Sammy should tell you what it's about since he's the creator. So Sam, why don't you pick it up?
Hello there. I created Fingerstyle Fursday roughly about 2 years ago. And the idea behind Fingerstyle Fursday was basically to create exercises that exercise both your right hand, your left hand, and including a bit of theory that actually sounded like mini pieces and were nice to play. It was also to test my compositional skills because basically back then I used to have to record it, write it, tab it out all in one day. So for me, it was kind of a compositional exercise, but for everybody else, what I wanted it for was basically sexy exercises. That's what Fingerstyle Fursday is all about.
So the rhythm of this piece is consistent throughout. So that's 4 beats, with the first one being 16th notes, and then beat 2, 3, and 4 in 8th notes. So that's ticka 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 ticka. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. So just make sure you get that rhythm right. The fingerings for the right hand have multiple options. The first figure, which is 4 notes, I'm going to combine it with the note that comes right after and create like a 5-note pattern. And when you think of it as a 5-note pattern, you have multiple options when it comes to the right hand. So the right hand could go thumb index, middle, and then thumb, and then thumb index, and then middle. So that's basically thumb index, middle, thumb, thumb index, and then middle. Or you could go thumb index, middle, thumb, thumb index, and then ring. And the reason you want to do that is because you could think of the open A's as being 2 notes on the same string, and you're alternating your right hand fingers, which eventually will give you more speed and more control, but it will make it more confusing. So you have the option between keeping the A string middle finger or going middle and ring. So that's just the middles. Or middle and ring. Middle, ring, middle, ring. Middle, ring, middle, ring. Or middle, 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 middle. It's up to you. Since this is an exercise, I strongly recommend you do it both ways so that you learn both techniques. Now, once you cover the fingerings and the rhythm, it's time to talk about the third thing that repeats across the entire piece, and that is the way we're going to articulate it. So each bar starts with 4 notes, right? The ticka ticka, the 16th notes, which involve chords that change, and then you have the drone happening. So when the chords change, we're going to play them loudest, and then we're going to kind of go down with our dynamics to make it sound like we finished that idea. And each bar is going to be one idea. This will help us in legato, specifically in one of the chords. So as we get to it, I'll mention that again, but just try to be consistent with that articulation. So I'm going to go loud, down, loud, down, loud, down, loud, and so on. And all I'm doing is I'm just adding a little bit more power into my picking, and then I back off and just rely on my flesh or nails to just kind of breeze across the strings rather than physically play that string, okay? Which adds a very nice fading out effect, but it requires a lot of muscle control because you're literally going, 100%, then 80%, then 60%, and then you're at 30 or 20%. So they're not all the same. You have to be aware of where each beat is and descend through it. So 100, less, 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 less. Less, 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 less. And if you go less very quickly at the beginning, well, you don't have anywhere to go. So it has to be gradual. Right? If you go down too quickly, well then all the other beats will be too quiet and nobody's going to hear them. So you have to be in total control over your right hand power to make sure you control that flow of dynamics, which is a very cool trick. So now we've covered the 3 constant elements in this exercise. Now we're going to talk about our left hand fingers and how we're going to put the whole thing together. Okay, so the first chord shape is all the way up there on the 8th position. So I'm going to use my 4 and 3 on the 10s, and then I'm going to go back to my 2 and 1. So when I play this in the same position, I'm moving less and I have a little bit of control. Also, I can do this. I can do a vibrato. No, I'm doing it perfectly here, but I know a lot of people will end up with that slide. So if you don't want to be that person, use your 3rd and 4th. It's also a good chance, an excuse to use our 4th finger to get that vibrato effect. So we're going to add the rhythm and the right hand fingerings, and for me personally, I'm going to use my middle and ring alternation. I'm going to play that figure. And the idea here is that you don't mute the open strings and that you move at the last moment so that you have legato. It's not ta. That's not it, right? That's ugly. That's bad. You went ta da. They have to totally connect. When you play the chords, make sure you pop it a little bit between the open strings. Now, I'm going to use all those open strings. Even though I let go of my hands, it still sounds legato because I'm using beat 3 and 4, which are open strings, to resonate my instrument and as an excuse to gently let go without sounding like that, right? I'm going to move 3 and 4 on the 5th frets while I'm playing the open strings. 3 and 4 on the 5th fret, and I'm going to move back to the 3rd fret. It's a position shift using the same fingerings. Yes, I'm moving my hand, but at least I'm not moving my fingers. In other words, one less movement. Repeat. Position shift. Now I'm going to slide. So the slide is me playing. I play the 3rd frets as a grace note and I quickly slide to the 5th frets. I cover all that in Ukulele Fingerstyle Basics course. So if you're confused about the open strings, the dynamics, the rhythm, the right hand fingerings, the slide, why am I using all those legato tricks using the open strings, etc., etc., all that is covered in Ukulele Fingerstyle Basics course, so make sure to check it out. Now I start the second section, which is outside of the repeats. Now this one's a little bit hard. You play your 1st finger on the 3rd fret, pinky, and then your trick here is when you play the open G, you let go of your 1st finger and you bar the 3rd fret. You have to time it perfectly after the open G so it doesn't sound like that you're stopping the notes. You have to overlap the movements so the sounds overlap, so the resonance overlaps, so you don't sound choppy. And here's, I'm just gonna play with my 3rd finger so I stay in the same position. It also, if you're a professional, you can easily play with your 4th finger. But most beginners, they will add that choppy slide as they try to go down and then they will crumble. Using your 3rd finger, A, will allow you to be in the same position, stretch your fingers, and develop a little bit of control. Remember, this is an exercise. We want to develop a control in the exercise. So I would just use my 3rd finger. As I play that, this is tricky because the last beat 4, has a 5th fret and an open. So I really got to use that dynamic trick to come down so that when I play the open, it's a chance for me to move without people hearing. You don't want that. D minor chord shape, 5th frets. So then it becomes 3rd finger. When you play the D minor, look at how my third and fourth finger are ready for it. Back to tens. Now we could use the same fingerings we've learned, but you have to make sure that your dynamics at the end are absolutely perfect, so that when you let go of your 5th fret, you sound legato as you go to the next 5th frets. The trick is, again, the problem is when you let go of that 5th fret. Right? Even then, it will sound like you let go of it. So that's the easier solution. So the hardest solution is to change your fingerings in the middle and then use Sammy's fingerings right after. 4th. And what happened here, 3rd finger, but then in beat 4, I replace my 3rd finger with my 4th finger so that I have 2 fingers to play the 5th frets, which overlap with the 4th finger, which does not stop the legato, which sounds really smooth, but a lot more difficult as I shift back. And it's like you have to keep track of another set of fingerings as you play it. But it's really neat if you can do it. Sounds really cool, but you're not going to be able to get really fast. So the easier solution is to do it in the regular fingerings and really nail that dynamics, but you will always hear that little pause. So if it bothers you, change the fingerings, which is a really neat advanced trick. If it doesn't bother you, just nail that dynamics. So here's that alternate fingering again. 4th finger. Now the piece is technically over. I'm going to play one more time. If you can nail that absolute fade out, it will sound magical in your own private space. Okay, so this piece should take you about a week to learn if you're in the appropriate level. If you're grade 1 or 2, this might be a little bit too much, so spend 2 or 3 weeks on it. But if you're grade 3, 4 and above, it should take you less than a week to master this, especially if you're using a metronome and you're doing slow practice using the fingerings that I've provided. If you are able to play it, please record yourself, post it on Instagram, and tag us, MK Fingerstyle Academy and 4-String Boy, so we can give you feedback on your own performance. Thank you, Sam, so much for sending me the PDF and for allowing me to experience Fingerstyle Fursdays and for recording the tutorial, and hopefully we can collaborate even more in the future. And for everybody else, I hope to see you in the next tutorial.